Listen and follow.
Sorry about that. 8:13 on this Tuesday morning. I love the movie Patton when it first starts and he finds a soldier sleeping and he says, "That's all right, son. You go down there. You're only son of a gun around here knows what he's trying to do." And that's what I think about our next guest, Matt Dennis. Certainly not asleep, but he's one of the few people I think when it comes to the criminal justice system that knows what the hell he's trying to do and he gets it done. He's an electronic monitor provider and bail agent. Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Thanks for taking the time with us. Tell me about this community letter that you put out.
We've had a lot of meetings over the last 8 years with different people and different entities, and there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of great things that are discussed. But at the end of the day, I've been 8 years in the city of New Orleans, and I can forecast that we're going to have a tsunami of disaster if we don't set standards and regulate the ankle monitor industry. People see the success we're having. They're going to try to bring it in for the profit gain, but they're not going to actually provide the solutions aspect, which is the high standards that we enforce on ourselves. So my question to the community is, what happens if I stop self-imposing these standards? What happens to the process that has been developed in Orleans? See, Orleans is completely different than Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is a mess right now. Every week you have a new story of a person on an ankle monitor committing a crime against another person, which that happens. People on ankle monitors commit crimes. But what's discovered is the person that's on an ankle monitor was not actually being watched. They have dead batteries. They have devices that have been removed. They have people openly talking on Instagram about letting their batteries die so they can commit a murder. I mean, there's so many terrible stories coming out of Baton Rouge, but on the other side of that, New Orleans has wonderful stories of success. We have a defendant who is out of Orleans Parish and happens to also have a domestic case out of Baton Rouge Parish. And in Orleans Parish, the victim is perfectly safe and not being bothered. A year after his release from jail on ankle monitor, he attempts to burn down his new victim's house in Baton Rouge. It was us watching that was able to get the police on him and get him picked up within 10 or 15 minutes of actually burning that house down. Now, we weren't watching for the Baton Rouge case legally, but we were helping to the best of our ability until we could get the courts to make it a legal court order. So there's just a lot of things that have to happen to finish this off in New Orleans and make sure that we never lose this level of accountability.
Just so people know and don't confuse the two, Orleans Parish did have at one point a taxpayer-funded ankle monitoring program, but it was very expensive and it was an abject failure, was it not?
Well, in its last year of operation, it spent $1.2 million. It averaged 50 or so people in the program at a time. When you do the math and you have, say they have 100 people, it takes 10 people minimum to run a 24-hour program 7 days a week. So if you have 100 people in a program, you have a 1 police officer to 10 citizen ratio. Now, if they're all Jack the Rippers and Ted Bundys, that's great, but that's not what was happening. They were being put in willy-nilly by the courts. So you had this hodgepodge of people being supervised. And 10 years ago, it was nothing like what we're doing right now. Today, it's armed robberies, carjackings, rapes, and murders. Without this level of supervision, our city would be on fire right now. The taxpayer-funded version does two things. It creates a cap. It doesn't let the city enjoy the benefits of a good program. It does more than two things. It destroys personal responsibility because a taxpayer-funded program has a judge believing that they could put everybody on 24-hour home incarceration. And all that does is create bigger problems. You create a lot of violations and a lot of people returning to jail. I think it's better to enforce a work policy and have guys get jobs, take part in their own supervision, not make this a taxpayer-funded issue, because the taxpayers following the rules. And I'm not sure why they should be held with the burden of paying for others' choices. And that's really, in a nutshell, the problems with the taxpayer-funded version in Orleans. Not to mention that, what really threw it over the edge was the murder of the Domino's Pizza delivery driver. It wasn't the killing that did it. It was the fact that they discovered that there were 2 juveniles that had been running around the city for over a week on ankle monitor that nobody even knew was running around the street. And here's what's ironic, Tommy. Today, in 2023, with such a robust and successful adult program, we literally have juveniles running around the city on ankle monitors committing crimes. We have a young man that was murdered just a week or two ago wearing an ankle monitor, and he was removed from our program by a judge. He was removed from our program because we're too strict. and he was put into another program where he subsequently was murdered while wearing an ankle monitor. And we know these facts because they have to ask us. They have to call us and have us help them untangle the web so they can figure out who it is. The juvenile ankle monitor program is a disaster, and we can't talk about it openly, and that's wrong. The community needs to know what's going on. So,
can you mention the judge, if not the juvenile?
The judge is the same judge that posted the mayor as a character witness for a person being sentenced for multiple armed robberies. I believe we have a single judge problem. It's unfortunate. We shouldn't. But we have to understand that these young people, you can't just take them out of our program because we actually send you report after report after report. You actually have to do something. You have to actually bring that young person in and correct them. And if you don't, you're going to end up with a much bigger problem.
Can we take a break, and when we come back, can you tell me as much as you can about this without violating confidences, breaking the law, et cetera? Because I think it's noteworthy that a judge, your system is working, right? As I said when I introduced you, Matt, you're one of the few son of a guns around here knows what he's trying to do, and you get it done, but yet this juvenile judge says, no, you're too strict, and as a result takes the young man off of your monitoring program, and now he's dead. That's what you're telling me, right?
That's a fact.
All right, we'll pick it up when we come back. Talking to Matt Dennis, 820 Traffic Now, WWL. 825, Tommy Tucker, WWL, back with our friend Matt Dennis, electronic monitor provider and bail agent. I think he's got a lot of the criminal justice problems in Orleans Parish figured out. I don't know how many people are listening to him. The judges certainly, or at least some judges, are not. Tell me the case study, if you can, Matt, about this judge you're talking about, the juvenile who's on ankle monitoring, and maybe for a little bit of context, how your program works with the technology involved and the feedback, et cetera.
Let me just fix one thing. The judges in Orleans Parish are actually pretty good.
Okay.
They understand the process. It's the magistrate judges that are the ones that we are involved with more than anybody, the commissioners in magistrate court. And I think they've learned a valuable lesson over the last few years. And they're actually very involved, and they're very interested in doing it correctly. So the only thing that we're missing in Orleans Parish is a true organized group setting where we make sure that we have a set of standards in place that regulate the way this happens in the courtroom. The judge is the final authority, and the DA is the chief law enforcement officer. Those two entities are what should be keeping ankle monitoring straight in Orleans and make sure it's legit. So as to our program, you have, just so you a little context so you understand, very unusual. We average about one cut-off ankle monitor every few months. It's not a very big issue with us. But last week, we had 4 people cut their ankle monitors off. And all 4 people were captured, 3 of them within 30 minutes of removing or attempting to remove the device. They never got it off. The 4th one got it off, and he was captured within 48 hours. And all 4 of these people are violent offenders, okay? And they're all back in the jail now. And they will now face a judge, and in front of that judge will be a very detailed report with supporting documents that show exactly what happened, including body camera arrest footage. That way we can make sure that everybody's in the loop to make sure everybody understands what's going on. Batteries, as simple as it seems, is a very important issue. You can tell kind of the mood of the person wearing the ankle monitor because they'll begin to test the battery limits when something's starting to go wrong. Maybe they're getting close to trial, maybe something else, maybe they're having a mental issue. So there's a lot of reasons why, but you can tell sometimes based on the way they use their battery. The ability to interact immediately with a person on the ankle monitor is extremely important.
All right, so
we have 2 types of. Go ahead.
Well, I'm watching the clock here, and I want to get to so you get instant feedback. You can know immediately I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead. I just want to get to the story of the juvenile that is now dead.
I have 2 types of parents. I've got good parents and bad parents, involved parents and not involved parents. And in many cases, our issues come with good parents. We have scared dads, scared moms. I have a dad that captured one of his sons because he refused to listen to the judge. He brought him to us, and it took forever to get the kid back into jail. We have a dad that just most recently, we have a young man that the dad's position was he's either going to commit a more violent crime and be back in jail, or he's going to die. and please come help me. And it took forever to get the judge to do anything on that matter. And we finally got that young man back in jail where the judge can deal with them. We have a young girl who was 14 at the time we dealt with her. When we showed up at her house because we had to take her ankle monitor off because we couldn't arrest her, she just let it die. We no longer could track her. The judge would not communicate at all, would not even respond to the book-thick layer of reports we sent him. When we showed up at her house, her 1-year-old baby was alone in the house with nobody there. She was a block or two down the road smoking weed, having fun at a weed party. No big deal. We took her ankle monitor off. 2 weeks later, she was captured in an armed robbery at the Oakwood Mall, and she's sitting in jail in Jefferson in a juvenile detention center. There's no reason for this. If they would just... They have to be willing to do it right, or it's never, ever going to work in juvenile court. And right now, there is a very concerted effort, in part by at least one judge, to make sure that we do not have an accountable solution in that courtroom. And that's a shame. It should stop.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate your time as always and your efforts. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Matt Dennis, electronic monitor provider and bail agent, and a young man that, again, is all clothed in secrecy. Newell Normans referred to it as a star chamber of juvenile justice. But the judge orders an ankle monitor taken off, so he wanders around and winds up getting killed. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll get an update from State Senator Kirk Talbot about what's going on.